Can I tell you something? This episode is a little different unless you listened last week and then it's going to be familiar. Most weeks, you and I talk shop about teaching, sequencing, confidence, the craft of guiding a room full of students. Today, I'm bringing you something closer to my heart. My co author and dear friend Alexandra DeSiato is here with me, and we are reading for you from our new book, Yoga Off the Mat, available today wherever books are sold. The book takes what yoga does to your attention on the mat, the noticing, the breath, the practice of returning, and lets it shape the rest of your life, your work, your relationships, the inside of your own head on an ordinary afternoon. In this episode, Alexandra reads from the chapter on fear of the unknown, that deeply human urge to grip, to plan, to stay in control. And I read from the chapter on joy. Mine centers on Maitri, the practice of delighting in someone else's delight instead of slipping into comparison. Then we do what we always do, and we riff. One thing before we start, Alexandra and I are hosting a live book talk on Thursday, July 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern in The Zone, my free community for yoga teachers at Comfort Zone Yoga. And if you're catching this after the fact, that's fine. It'll be on my YouTube channel. Bring your questions and we will riff on yoga philosophy together in real time. I'll remind you how to join at the end. For now, I'm Sage Rountree, and this is Yoga Teacher Confidential. Here's Alexandra.
Chapter 17, Fear of the Unknown. Abhinavesha is the fifth klesha, and it's often translated as fear of death or clinging to life. Abhinavesha is an extension of asmita and vesha. It is an obstacle caused by our ceaseless ego gripping. When we teach this philosophical concept, we often share a funny clip from the now defunct show, The Colbert Report, in which Stephen Colbert discusses a study that showed people were happier consuming media when they knew the ending of the story. Extrapolating from this, he suggested that he could provide joy by offering the biggest spoiler of them all: you die. This particular take brings humor to our death fear, and in our opinion, adding humor to such a complex thing to contemplate, the end of your known existence, is the right call. But the point Colbert was making is that regardless of who you are or what life you live, the same inevitable end awaits all of us. Even more importantly, if you recognize that death is inevitable and do your best to engage with this knowledge rather than shy away from it, suffering and fear actually lessen. What replaces them is a drive to enjoy the limited days and hours of your existence, celebrating your life and the love you share with others. Given that knowledge, that our existence has an expiration date and we have no choice in that matter, it's wild to consider how many people live a life that is completely motivated by fear of this inevitability. Perhaps that's because at its heart, Abhinavesha is fear of the unknown. Whether you have a faith tradition you practice or you have a humanistic worldview, you likely recognize that it is impossible to understand what awaits after death. That is why faith is faith. Consider that the unknown generally creates a sense of unease. If you've ever witnessed someone who just walked into a surprise party, you've seen this in action. Even as they begin to realize that there is a joyous occasion afoot, they can't fully grasp what is happening because it was so unexpected. When we can't anticipate what is to come, it creates anxiety. From an ego perspective, we can't imagine that we personally will end. Attachment and aversion show up here too. Not only are we attached to life, but we are also averse to not knowing and not having an answer. Death is the end of life, ours, our parents, our children's, our loved ones. And it's also the beginning of the unknown. For both of those reasons, we might feel resistance to it. Actions. What do we do in the face of this inevitable fate that awaits all of us? How do we temper our fear of this unknown and not allow Abhinavesha to control us? Here are a few practical suggestions. Lean into the unease of not knowing. Notice if you have a well-practiced desire to know, plan, or be in control. Investigate that. Explore it. Does being in control allow you to feel safe? Are there moments that you can try experiencing a sense of safety, or if not quite that, joyous exhilaration in not knowing? In practice, this might look like resisting the urge to plan every moment of a vacation or handing the reins of an important day off to a loved one to fully oversee. Notice when you feel unease about the unknown, whether that is trying a new food or hiking a less used trail. Notice the fear at the heart of the unease. Notice too when that fear is unfounded, the food was delicious. And when it was founded, that trail was extremely advanced. And notice that in either case, things probably turned out more or less okay. See the joy in death. Funerals are often incredibly poignant, full of loving tributes and happy memories and gratitude that the loved one, now gone, was a part of our lives. It's not an exaggeration to say that funerals can be occasions of joy and richness. Sometimes death brings us closer to others. Often, it helps us better understand ourselves. Occasionally, the death of a loved one can be a catalyst for deep healing. The fact that life has an endpoint enriches it deeply. Make death a part of your meditations. Memento mori, remember that you must die. Instead of turning away from death, follow the lead of artists through the centuries and include a reminder of it in your everyday life. The fly or the skull in a still life painting is there to remind us of the inevitability of decay and death. So how about trying this as a mantra? None of this matters, and we all die. You can interpret this in two markedly different ways. It can have a tone of futility or a tone of celebration and reverence. We suggest the latter. After all, if none of this inherently matters, that means you alone get to create your own meaning. Allow this stark and honest assessment of reality to motivate you to be fully present. If none of this matters, then it's up to you to determine what matters. If we all die, then it means you get to determine what to do with your time until the end. Perhaps you will still feel a lingering fear of the unknown, but consider that there is so great freedom in what we do know as fact. None of this really matters, and we all die.
I love it. I love it. On last week's episode, we talked about how sometimes we will go into the manuscript and it's tough for me to know, did I write that? Did Alexandra write that? Or vice versa. And I think that chapter was almost exclusively you.
I don't know about that. Maybe. But I think there's certainly things that you put in here. I think the fear of the unknown piece is a little more you than me. And I think some of the actions might be more you than me.
I did write the still life, the memento mori.
You definitely wrote that. So I don't know. And I think we've written about this concept previously as well. So I also suspect that some of our ideas on it have started to merge a little closer to one, prior to writing this.
And we like to text each other about death. I remember texting you last summer from the graveyard, like, just having a nice stroll through the cemetery. You're like, great, love it. We're all going to die.
Totally. Well, and, the reference to the Colbert Report clip is a clip that you showed me like 15 years ago in my second teacher training when you were talking about Abhinavesha. So that's the way you thought of Abhinavesha back then. And that resonated so intensely with me that I have referenced that many times. I don't think you can find that clip on YouTube anymore because it's probably 15 years old at this point. But for the longest time, I had it bookmarked because it's so great. He delivers like you die. Just this is so peppy and hilariously, and I love it.
I love it too. This is chapter 12, Joy. You may have heard the common saying, comparison is the thief of joy. This quote is so beloved and widely shared because it resonates deeply. From our earliest days, and then with increasing intensity from middle school onward, we allow comparing ourselves to others to steal our contentment, our bliss, and our connection to our own true, joyful selves. Never do we feel this more than when we're perusing the infinite feeds on our social media. There is no bottom to the scroll and no bottom to the depth of despair that we create for ourselves when we obsessively compare ourselves to the glossy sheen that others project on their social media feeds. Maitri is a concept from the Upanishads that is related to metta, or loving kindness. The words share a root, mid, meaning love. When we practice delight in others' delight, we are engaging in Maitri. We align our happiness with others' happiness. This is easy to do with your loved ones, but it's hard to do with your frenemies on social media. There, we more often engage in feeling bad about others' happiness. We compare ourselves, deem ourselves unworthy, and create our own suffering. Or maybe we indulge in the opposite, Schadenfreude, a word taken from German that means feeling happy about others' sadness or misfortune. It makes us feel high to see someone brought low. Either way, the state of comparison puts us out of alignment. One person is happy, the other is sad. In Maitri, we are in alignment. Our happiness is a reaction to the happiness of others. We are best aligned when we delight in the delight of others, experience joy from their joy. At the other end of the spectrum, when another is sad and we are sad in reaction, we are in a state of compassion. Sometimes that's a lovely resonance, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. When we feel icky about someone else's suffering, Mexican Spanish uses the term pena ajena. It roughly translates in today's vernacular to cringe, feeling embarrassment at the shame of others. Consider a 4-quadrant grid. Your own simplified feeling, sad or happy, rests on one axis, and others' feelings of sadness or happiness on the other. When they feel sad and you feel happy, that's Schadenfreude. When they feel happy and you feel happy, that's Maitri. When they feel sad and you feel sad, that's compassion, but it can also be cringe. And when they feel happy and you feel sad, that's useless comparison, aka creating your own suffering. To experience yoga, union, and connection, we need to be aligned with others. Notice how, when we delight in others' misfortune or feel sad about their good fortune, we are in a state of disconnection and bad alignment. This evokes the term dukkha, which literally means bad axle space. On a wheel, this kind of misalignment of the axle space will wear down the wheel faster than when it has a better aligned axle hole. When our internal state reflects what the other is experiencing, whether it's that we are both happy or we are both sad, we are in alignment. And this is where yoga happens, in the union between the personal experience and the universal, the experience of you as the subject and the other as the object. Armed with this knowledge, you can take a new approach. Scrolling through social media is the perfect time to practice Maitri, happiness in others' happiness. The more you practice, the easier it becomes, so practice celebrating every chance you get. What will eventually kick in with regular practice of Maitri is an anti-comparison. You will start to be happy that others are happy because they show that this happiness is a possibility. You'll be happy that others are successful because they show that the success is a possibility. And you'll start to see that these things are possible for you, too. Actions. Here are a few practical tips for how to do this when engaging with social media. Number 1, double tap everything. Love it all and mean it. Try saying it out loud. Yay, you! This builds on the Bhakti Yoga action from the previous chapter, chapter 11 in the book. Number 2, good for her. You may have seen the meme of Lucille Bluth, the matriarch character on Arrested Development, saying, good for her. In the context of the show, she says this after watching a news report saying a woman has driven her car into a lake on purpose, fed up with the patriarchy. While the original scene is ironic, this is another affirmation you can practice when you see others taking action and doing what's right for them. Good for her. Number 3, take comfort in connection. As you'll learn in part 3 of the book, avidya, wrong seeing, is the root of suffering. When we feel jealousy, envy, or comparison, we are operating under the wrong seeing presumption that we are separate from the objects of our feelings. By celebrating others' joy, we get to align our feelings with theirs, to resonate with them, and to connect, even if it's only through a screen. That connection increases everyone's joy. One thing I liked while doing this book is throwing in some pop cultural references like this kind of wedged in, good for her from Arrested Development, where it was actually in a very dark setup of a joke, but the way that Lucille just so blithely says, good for her. And it became a hook and an angle for this chapter.
Yeah, it's great though. I mean, I think I love when we reference pop cultural things because this just brings yoga philosophy into the present day. It doesn't have to be this old stale thing. It's everywhere. We see it everywhere.
And
sure.
we do that in the chapter on Atta as well, where I just use it's just my old joke. Like my father once told me, several times he told me, because it's kind of the point of it, his idea of heaven is getting to tell the same joke to different people every night. He was a college professor and a musician, so you can see how both of those jobs are just telling the same joke to different people every night too. But I kind of feel like that's what we do as yoga teachers, and certainly as yoga teacher trainers, is the joke that I would always make about Atta and now is that it was very much like, it's like, hey guys, right here, right now. It's a call that now that I have presented out the evidence, therefore I'm going to launch into this explication of yoga. But and now is also what the voice on HBO says back in the day when we used to actually watch TV in real time and not just on demand. And now the HBO original series, Ballers, or whatever it was that you were watching.
Yeah.
And it's the very same time saying, okay, it's time to get out of the kitchen, bring your popcorn, time to sit down because Game of Thrones is coming on, or Sex and the City, or The Sopranos, or whatever.
No, I mean, I think like it's funny. We're talking about, repetition a little bit as well. And it makes me think back to actually a yoga class I taught yesterday. And this circles back to joy as well. And in my yoga class, it's a Monday night yoga class. And I, for 15 years, have made the same joke in the class. And I am like 90% sure that I might have gotten it from you. So you can tell me. I'll make some suggestions about what students can do. Like you can stay here with the side bend, or you can lift your hips. If you came to party, you can lift your hips. But it's Monday. I don't party on Mondays. And I think that's you. I think that's a you.
I think it's like a Gretchen Wilson song, I'm here for the party.
Right. But it's so funny. So I said it last night, and I've literally made this joke probably once every 3 classes for many years. And one of my newer students like let out like the most joyful laugh. She was like, I think everyone else was sort of like, they'd all heard it so many times, but it was beautiful and joyful. And then it made us all laugh. And I don't know, it was like her happiness brought us happiness. And that's
exactly the point of this chapter is like, we should just like, the world is a dark and awful place. Like if we're going to take our joy where we can find it, and good for her for laughing at that joke.
Totally. And it made me laugh, and it made me think, gosh, it really is a very funny thing to say. And I'm so glad I still say it,
I love that you say that, because this is certainly a major through line of the podcast and of my teaching lately. It's been like, let's not make it harder than it needs to be, which I think is another thing that this book points to. Let's find our ease where we can. Let's find our comfort where we can, and let's celebrate and the opportunity to celebrate.
Absolutely. I love the way this chapter ends, this idea about taking comfort and connection, because that's really what it's all about. We talked earlier, in previous podcasts about how it's all about presence, and it is all about presence, but it's all about presence to be in service and connection with others, because you can't truly connect with someone else unless you're deeply rooted in yourself. So I love that's where we end with the actions.
I practice this every morning. People who follow me on Instagram and click through to stories will see I have this recurring content series. It's just clips of me walking, because I walk compulsively now that I don't run. I walk every day unless the weather's awful, or I don't think I've missed a day since I started putting like my daily walk on my stories. But typically I walk with my husband, and I think you and I have we like to, even though yoga philosophy would probably tell us to bite our tongue, like we like to have opinions and judgment on things that we see around us. And my husband is of the same nature. And so we not so secretly judge out on the trail, like how people welcome us. Are they going to glance at us? Are they going to smile at us? Are they going to say good morning? And people do get exceptions if they're clearly in a workout, especially if they're running uphill, like they are absolved. They do not need to welcome us, but otherwise they absolutely have to. And we play this little game like the Joaquin Phoenix character in Gladiator. So we hold our thumb out and it's like, who's going to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Well, I love it though, because at the heart of that is your desire to connect with them.
We want all we want is
Yeah.
for them to say hi. And
Yeah.
when they do, it really makes our day. And then we like celebrate that person for the rest of the walk.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes that high like it can lead you to just a short conversation. That's funny. It makes me think my daughter is just turned 11, and so she's hit the point where she is like mortified by me talking to strangers, and I am the like start a conversation with the cashier type. Like I am always telling my business to people and asking them about their business. She's just mortified by it. But I love it. It's what feels human and beautiful to try to understand someone else's perspective or to have a moment where you're on the same page. Like that's so powerful to me. And it really fills me up. And I think that's really what you're talking about.
Yeah, we want to go out there and spread some thumbs ups and give people a little heart sign. And,
Well,
and have that. My favorite definition of yoga is connection and relationship. But I think that's exactly what we're getting at in this
Yeah.
chapter and in this book and in our yoga practice. So thanks for coming on and connecting with me and reading. I can't wait for everybody to read this book. And here's a reminder to readers that a 5-star review on Amazon and all your favorite bookstore sites is always really, really helpful for the book.
Yeah.
Even if you only have time to give it the 5 stars, that would be great. If you have time to write a few words, and if you've got all the time in the world, a picture of the book to prove that you actually bought it somehow makes a difference, I think, when people are looking. So we'd be really grateful for your approbation, for telling folks who would benefit from reading this book about it, and not least of all, asking your local library to order this book, because Alexandra and I get paid the same no matter who buys the book. If it's a library, that's great. And it means that more people are going to get exposed to these ideas that have mattered so much to any of us who'd be listening to a podcast called Yoga Teacher Confidential.
That's exactly it. Yes. Thank you. Please spread the word. Please share our book. It really is a good one. And I'm so proud of it.
Thanks. What a joy to read these pages with you, Alexandra, and to share them with everyone listening. Listeners, if you take one thing from today, let it be this. The same practices we offer our students, paying attention, staying with discomfort, returning to the breath, are the ones that carry us through fear and through joy in the rest of our lives off the mat. Before you go, an invitation. Alexandra and I are hosting a live book talk on Thursday, July 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern in The Zone, my free community for yoga teachers at Comfort Zone Yoga. We'll read a bit more, we will take your questions, and we'll riff on yoga philosophy together. It's free to join. Come and hang out with us. And if you're catching this after the fact, you'll find it on my YouTube channel. Thank you for spending this time with us. This is Yoga Teacher Confidential. I'm Sage Rountree, and I'll see you next time.